mics on the Upstairs to the Right Music channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in this evening with us here. It is a good thing to be here. Let me drink a little something. My throat got kind of gnarly today with the wind. Don't quite know what's up with that, but I hope I'm all right. Mickey's in the house. Ben's in the house. Hope you guys have had a great week as well. I had an interesting week. I don't know how great it was, but I'm glad that one is over. I hope the next one is better. I always have those hopes. Um, but basically, everything is all good. Um, I'm still waiting to get the way it works when you import things from Japan. You have to pay a tax. It's not a VAT tax, value added tax. It's a tax that you have to pay when it comes in. Now, in the Netherlands, a lot of people don't like James. Welcome, hey man, how you doing? So glad to see you, sir. Here in the Netherlands, you have to pay a tax, and a lot of folks don't like to import things because sometimes those taxes can exceed the cost of the item that you're buying, and that is one of the downsides of doing import business here. But it is what it is. Anthony in the house. Boy, we got everybody here tonight. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I always do appreciate it. Before I really get started and finish that thought, um, let me just do my usual opening thank you by saying that time is a precious thing. And one way or another, we spend it where we think is best suited. And the fact that you spend a little bit of your time with me, whether this catches you in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, I want to let you know that it is really, really greatly appreciated. Uncle Carlton, I see you got the link. That works. Uncle Carlton in the house. Welcome, sir. Yeah, I'm glad that works. We'll do that every time, sir, that you can join in when you feel like it. Frederick Rogers in the house. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, so I'm waiting on those guitars to come through. They'll send me a bill and you pay it because they don't give it to you till you pay it. And then we'll have some nice things to show off here coming up this week. Michael Watson in the house. Mr. Watson, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. All my favorite peoples in the house tonight. I do like this so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to tune in. So yeah, we should have some pretty cool guitars coming in here in a minute, especially like I said, that Yamaha. I think that that's something as Prince used to say, that kind of car doesn't pass you every day. It doesn't pass by every day. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm looking forward to that Fender bass because it's been a while since I've had a Fender Japan bass. I love them. I use them for my recordings mostly until I switched over to that Harley Benton, which I've said before, and I'll say it again. I think that's a fine bass for the money. And we're going to put it head to head against that Fender Japan bass and see if that holds water. So that's coming up. So I am looking forward to that stuff coming through because there's a lot of cool stuff to share with you guys, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. So okay. I like last live stream's discussion. By the way, I thought that I was a little hesitant to get into it, but I thought it was a fantastic topic, and a lot of people in the comment section replied. And I want to let you guys know I always read the comment section on the live streams and on my regular stuff, on my the regular content and edited videos, and listen to what you have to say. And I do appreciate the love and the further, expanding upon those thoughts that I got into that we touched upon. So, just a reminder, even though you may not think it's relevant, chime in the comments section always. Tonight's being no different. I love hearing from you. Housestone Funk, Music Collective and Productions. Oh, welcome, sir. Good that you're back. I am glad to see you. keep missing the live show, but doing my best. Hey, man, when you can pop in, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Tried to say hi, at least making music. Hey, man, you do what you're supposed to be doing. At least video weekend. Love my Harley Benton, PJ. Yeah, PJ. Active Pups, Bull Push. Yeah, it's a great workhorse, as you were saying there. You were saying better than me. Type of bass. It really is. I mean, it does the job. And like I said, one of the things that to me really separates a cheap instrument from a good one is how well it stays in tune. If I can tune it and set it down for a day or so, come back to it and it's still in tune. Once it's settled, it's got used to your household and all that, and it's not wild. Even in the case here, I'd say we have some pretty wild weather fluctuations, especially this time of year. Um, if it stays in tune, I know I've got a good one, at least as far as that regard is concerned. In the case of my Harley Benton bass, I've had it sitting here. If you go back to a couple of months ago live streams, it was sitting here in the corner. I did the last song on my album, took it off my neck, stuck it here in the corner, and didn't touch it for months. And then when I felt guilty about it and said, "Well, I need to put it out and show it a little bit of respect, get a stand for it, and put it out with the other guitars," um, I was amazed that it was still in tune. it was still in tune. So that's half the battle right there. You got some good tuning machines on it. So yeah, good bases, solid bases. We'll see. You know, I'm a hesitant, really kind of guy. I'm a very cautious kind of guy, and I don't. I mean, I keep abreast, like you guys, especially through you guys. Having this live stream is really helpful to me because you'll bring up stuff that I may not be aware of, and I'll investigate it and look into it. But I'm really, I do keep abreast of the new things that are coming out, but I'm very shy on jumping in on the bandwagon. And, you know, uh, I'm old fashioned in that regard. You know, I made it a point when I was working on the Asanoki One album and the Asanoki Ants in the Pantry album to record those as I made it. I was talking about it that I mic'd I used an amp, in this case my Laney combo amp, and I mic'd it and mic'd the room and had a couple of different mics when I was laying down the tracks, and used a lot of vintage gear like my 75 EP3 and stuff like that, um, because I wanted to impart that sound in a modern era. And I like the way some of those recordings, and you can hear them yourself by going to Bandcamp and listening to the Asanoki or the Ants in the Pantry album. And I liked the way it sounded. It sounded good, and I recorded the old fashioned way, quote unquote. Didn't use tape. Use a DAW, but still. Um, when it comes to changing, I'll give you guys an example. With my pedal board for years, I know you guys know this kind of connector for pedals. Pretty straight ahead, goes right there, and then you connect to your other pedal. And for years and years, I would only use this kind of connector. Uh, and I used the best quality ones, even to the point where I made this one. I started making them myself. And because Boston, there's a company called Boston, they have a lot of stuff, but they'll sell you the individual parts so you can put them together yourself. And try to use the best connectors that I could, because a lot of the noise issues that I was getting when I was making those recordings in that way was coming from if I was using cheap connectors. So Usually, when there's a buzz or there's noise in your signal, you go through your signal chain, and one of the first places you're probably going to hit is your connectors, what you're using to connect your guitar, your bass, or your keyboards, whatever, to the amplifier or the board. And really got down and got into how important that was, and would not budge away from this size, this thickness, because I felt that because I felt that anything less than this or smaller than this would degrade your audio as you went down that chain. And for years and years, I resisted this. Same concept. These are what I would call modern connectors. A lot thinner, a lot flexible. Saves a whole heck of a lot of space. I mean, when you're talking about your pedal board, there is a real big difference, Cat, between using one of these and using one of these. And but for years, because I had this concept that something like this was not going to perform signal wise as good as something like this, I resisted using these, purchasing these. Plus, these flat patch cables are not cheap. Compared to these in terms of price, these are significantly, well, in scale of things, these are more. These cost you more. But I bought some and started A and Bing them between the two of them, and I could not find a discernible difference in the audio quality. So these went out the window, and these are the ones that I use now exclusively for quite a while. It's at least the last 3 years on my pedal board. But a lot of you guys are like, well, those have been out for a long time, Mike. How come only in the last 3 years did you get around to them? Well, a couple of reasons. They may have been around in the West for a while, but in Singapore and Japan, these things at that time did not. And you did not hear about it. This was, what you went, if you went to go buy some, you said, hey, I need some patch cables. This is what they would sell you. And also again that reticence that I had, that doubtful, hey, is that really a better thing? Well, in the case of this, I discovered that it really is better because, of course, as I pointed out, you're saving a lot of space. There's a lot more pedals. You could squeeze on at least one or two extra pedals on your pedal board uh, as opposed to using these. And also in terms of that signal quality not being different between these two items. So there's that, and so I just put that out there as an example of how I really was slow to change, and then I said, okay, let me dip my toe into it, and discovered that my prejudices, I guess, for lack of a better word, were unfounded. And it actually proved to be really good for me. Now, tonight we're going to talk about wireless guitar gear. Wireless guitar gear getting cheaper, but are they any good? And I'm going to extend this argument back out to wireless systems too. Analog wireless systems for guitar players and bass players have been around since the 70s. AC/DC and the sound that Angus and Malcolm Young were getting in the studio. They used an analog wireless system in the studio, particularly when they recorded in was that Barbados? They recorded, was that studio in Barbados when they recorded Back in Black, and it has been attributed again, another one of those rabbit holes you could go down, but it's been attributed that that wireless system had a lot to do with the sound of his guitar, especially in those recordings. Now they compress the dynamic range. An analog system will compress the dynamic range of your signal, and that will, of course, color your sound. And it's interesting. Again, you would think all the modern hip stuff that comes out of Japan, that in the music scene, that you would see a lot of that. I didn't know of any guys that used, certainly in my band, my Japanese band, Asanoki, when we were gigging, playing clubs, we never used a wireless system. All of us were, hitched up uh, with cables. We were plugged in with a cable. And it never occurred to us. And I think all of us, being around same age, had within a few years or so, had that, again, that presupposition that I don't want that, or that's not necessary. It's going to color my sound, or it's the Japanese word for too much trouble is mundokusai. So it's mundokusai to use that system, and what if it cuts out, and just the basic arguments that plug in with one of these is more reliable. Now, any guy or anybody who's recorded, or not even recorded, if you're just at home, where you're just a home guy, a home player, that these can give you a lot of noise. This can get noisy, and the more you add, if you're using a pedal board, as you stack them on, and go on, you're increasing that noise. So that's one of the inherent problems. Whereas an analog wire system compresses and colors your sound, possibly. Not possibly, it does, but to varying extents. And also, by the way, it also depends upon the type of guitar that you're using. Some of those work better with certain guitars, So again, it's a rabbit hole. And it's just something that a lot of cats didn't want to get into. But the downside of plugging in, again, is the noise. You're adding a noise to an input that has a possibility, if it has poor shielding. That's one of the reasons why Monster Cables started using gold shielding on their plugs. Better in terms of keeping that noise down, and in the long run, preventing corrosion. Because these will corrode. Oh God, in Singapore with that humidity, I had to really watch out for corrosion. Depending upon your environment, corrosion can play a role in that as well. So Monster Cables is considered to be the gold standard in order to prevent that. But with an analog wireless system, this process of compounding, your compressing your signal so that it can send it over to the converter, and it happens within the converters, is one of the things that is the downside of using a wireless system. It's funny that most cats would rather keep the tone along with a little noise than. And one of the things a wireless system do, it can, or in some cases, it's been known to act as a noise gate, so it can actually, quiet your rig. And I'm going to get into that in a minute as well, because I found that to be true myself. But there's pros and cons on both sides. Of course, with a wireless system, the biggest pro is the freedom to roam. You can, hit every corner of the stage. You can go all the way out. If you're a superstar, you can hit that middle stage and go out in the middle audience, and do your solo and come back. And it's just the freedom of it. You're not, tangled up with that kind of thing. And most pro bands, they use them. They use analog systems. Now, there is a there are different systems now that are available, and these are digital systems, and they use uh, a digital A to D converter in order. So it takes that sound, converts it to zeros and ones, and it sends it over to the receiver, and it reconverts that sound into how the digital blueprint of it is sent to it, lays out. Uh, think of Star Trek and the transporter. You step in the transporter A, and then it reassembles you back on the other side, transporter B. You hope. Although I always thought to myself, isn't that kind of destroying the you and then reconstructing a new you on the other side? Yeah, or is it, again, there's a lot of questions I have, but basically, it's kind of along those lines. Michael Watson had a Suzuki wireless system in the mid 80s. Used it about 2 months before switching back to plugging in. It worked fine, but it just wasn't for me. Yeah, again, it's that notion of it's just not for me. And we all have had, and again, the expense. I'm sure that a Suzuki analog system back in the day was not cheap. Not cheap. They still aren't. You know. I do believe the cheapest analog wire system, they start around about 900,000 bucks, something like that, and they go up from there. Um, and again, depending upon your application, if I'm slash, yeah, I want a wireless system. If I'm recording in the studio, do I necessarily need or want to have that? Again, application there. If I'm gigging in a small club, I'm not slash. Do I want to do that? Is that something that I need? And again, you have to, again, with an analog system, I do believe you have to pay a license in order to use them. There's a couple of things with them, and you're limited to a certain band as well. Seamus O'Brien, what's happening, sir? Top of the morning, afternoon, or evening to you? I guess if we're in the same time zone, top of the evening to you, sir. Welcome. Glad to have you in the house. We're talking about wireless system, guitar systems, and a bass application as well, but basically wireless guitar systems and their evolution over time, and how a lot of cats just had the "it isn't for me" kind of vibe. Yeah. I've always been a small to medium sized club performer. I don't have the large, 10,000 people, looking at me like my Uncle Carl's had, or more, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 he's had. And I even believe that my Uncle Carlton, if he chimes in, he was plugged in as well. He didn't use a wireless system when he was playing for Fast Domino. But again, it just like cats, it just wasn't for me. Well, if you fast forward to today, you run into inexpensive systems that are digital systems, as I pointed out, that are far cheaper, like this right here. I finally decided to dip my toe into a wireless system. In this case, a wireless digital system. Now, these wireless digital systems work on Wi-Fi. And they usually work between, was that 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz. Sometimes you get into some that run a little bit different, a little higher than that. But basically, they're all about the same. They're all basically made the same. To be honest, they either run in one or the other. There's a third option as well. Um, that actually I believe that this one is. But anyway, that's not important to discussion actually. Um, so much that what is important about that is that these run on Wi-Fi, and it makes it a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay a license, and because it's operating within a certain frequency on Wi-Fi, it actually limits the amount of interference that you can get when you're performing, as opposed to an analog system. The other thing that it does, that an analog system, again, one of the cons of an analog wireless system is it doesn't color your sound because it's a digital system. Again, it transports your tone over the send to the receiver. So plug this into your guitar, and then this is plugged into your amp or your pedal board, and and it converts it digitally over. And one of the other things that I noticed, that a lot of my noise that I was experiencing, even using really nice, good quality shielded cable that I was using, is reduced, especially on that Fender Champion 40. I love that amp. And as you know, I put a new old stock vintage, well, 14 years vintage, no, 14-year-old, but Jensen Italian made speaker in it, so it really has a true Fender speaker in it, and I love it to death. But noisy, a bit noisy when I'm going, and when I'm going through, when I'm plugged in, even using a good quality as I do cable, shielded cables. I'm not having that noise issue when I plugged in using this wireless system, this digital wireless system. I was amazed. I went back to, again, my days of this, so I went from this to this, and finally this week, literally this week, I made the jump to this. And that's 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 how slow old Mike is in making changes, and accepting and trying things out. But the fact of the matter is, these are so inexpensive that you could buy if you were playing in a live situation on stage in a small, medium-sized club, or even a large venue. You could buy three of these, and for by the way, these are around $50. You can have, these can be had for about $50, and they can be purchased, three or four of them. So you get one on 2.4, you get one on 5 point, you get on another one on another frequency band, and essentially, if you're playing in the gig and this one fails, you can reach in, pull out the other one, try that one. If that one fails, you have multiple backups for $150. That is incredibly cheap. That made this technology, in my opinion, accessible to the masses, to everybody. These have been around for a while, of course, but they've gotten better. And I kind of waited, and these are just far and beyond my expectations for what they would be. Now, these are USB charged as well. They hold about a 6-hour charge on them. So that's pretty cool. For my applications here at home, that's great. MTS Guitar 5150. I bought one of those. I think it was $40. Great for around the house. Not sure if I try live, but I stand in the same spot anyway. Yeah, I think you could. I think you, and I know it has been. I've seen examples of where these have been used live, and they work like a charm. Again, like I said, if there is an issue, they're so inexpensive that you could buy different systems from different companies. They're all basically the same. Most of them these days are USB charged. Some of them come with their own charge case, like my mic does, where the case itself is the charger. Um, and they have multiple channels, usually 5 or 6 channels that you can select from in order to get a clean signal, depending upon where you're at. But if you have a few of these for $150, I'd give it a shot. And yeah, I would, if I started going live again. I think this is something that I would give a shot using. I'd buy a few of them, like I've said, and figure out for the venue which one works best. But once it's locked in, it's locked in. And again, the benefits of that little bit of noise reduction, that it also benefits my rig, even here at home. I mean, I want my sound to be as pristine as possible. Again, one of the reasons why the old analog systems was not attracted to me. And I know what my Laney with that vintage, true vintage speaker in it, the greenback from '72, sounds like. That's the prettiest, And then secondary, that Jensen speaker in that Fender, and I did an A and B between a cable and these, and I will say that nothing still beats the sound of a direct plug-in cable. I will say in terms of sound quality, this has an edge over a wireless system even still. However, the wireless system is quieter, and just for sitting at home playing, it's not such a big of a noticeable difference that it bothers me. The convenience factor, the reduction in noise, all those make up for the fact that this sounds a little better. Ben Allmark. I have a couple of sets of something similar to those, but unfortunately, they collect dust. I think, yeah. You now again, they're so inexpensive that you could end up buying, multiples of these, multiples of these, and I don't think that is necessarily the way to go either. You only need, like I said, two, maybe three. And if you feel confident with them, you throw them in your gig bag and you're ready to go. I would much rather throw two of these in my gig bag than a cable. And again, like I said, I got to check that cable. I remember it's like, in the military, checking your rifle before going into battle. And before I would hit before I even went to the venue, I was at home checking my guitar, checking the cable make sure that was good before I put everything in my gig bag and went to the venue. I always did that. Always did that. Except for that's when I had my band. When I was playing keyboards, that was kind of that was set. And if anybody touched my keyboards, you heard about it. But once I got that plugged in and said that was okay. Um, but again, applications. Ben Allmark. Not that there's anything wrong with them. They work great. Yeah. I think this is it for me. I think this was $50 well spent. Um, and I think it's enough for my applications for right now. For demoing things, makes it a lot easier, guys. When I'm there and I'm doing YouTube and for my regular content, the edited material that I do on my channel here, having a cable plugging in and doing all that, and having to stay in one area and film in that area because that's where my amps are. This kind of opens up where I can kind of move around. As a matter of fact, this week's video is going to be going a little bit about that with these. But I thought I would expand upon that a little bit here tonight before that comes out. But again, like I said, there's a lot of factors there. The convenience factor of it, the fact that in the case, at least in my rig, like I said, I've read a lot of articles. Again, I'm a nerd. My study before I bought this, believe me, again, just like everything else that you see sitting here, I studied about a lot. But I wanted a topic, of course, for my regular content to talk about, but for myself personally, again, it was an interest because it's something that I wanted to try. Just because I want to sit on my living room couch and watch TV while I'm noodling my guitar. My amps are away on the other side of the room, and I got cats and dogs, and having a long cable is just not happening. This now I can enjoy my noodling time, and that's very important because I've written some great songs just sitting there noodling. Just came up with something like so it's very important to have the freedom to be able to do that. Is fantastic. Some of these systems come with a headphone output, so you can have plugged into your guitar, plug that into the receiver, plug that into a wireless headphone set, and you're not bothering anybody and you're still running through your amp, but you're not, yeah. So there's a lot of cool things that I have to say these digital wireless systems provide in the modern age, and again, I think if you haven't looked into it, if you haven't, they're sitting in the dust. You kind of come to your conclusions on them. But for you, but if you haven't tried them, like me, very hesitant. I think now is the time to look into them. I always try to look for gear that I think is affordable because that's what this channel is about. We're about finding affordable gear that makes your life a little bit more convenient. Guitars, pedals, wire systems like this. And I think that this is a buy. I think this is something that at that price range is worth these days to maybe take a look at if you haven't and see if it's for you or not. It's for me. Now, would I use this for recording? No, absolutely not. I would not use this for recording at all. Again, nothing is going to beat this. And if I'm recording anyway, I'm running through my noise gates anyway to try to keep that sound as pristine as possible. And so that little added problem of having that little bit of noise, even on good cables, even on monster cables, get a little hiss, is still worth it to me because I'm getting just a little bit more richer tone out of being plugged directly when I'm recording. So I would know for recording, I wouldn't do this for recording, not for me. Seamus O'Brien. I've ordered an S Park Go for when I'm traveling, and these would be great for a completely wireless solution. Yeah, like I said, get something like this, especially get one. Yeah, there you go. That would do it too. Yeah. So again, you're not bothering. For me, once I get that Boss IR2, which by the way, I have a good friend of mine looking for that right now in Japan. Somebody's in Japan right now and looking for it for me, and I might have one of those coming up, and that will complete my new pedal board. And with this and that pedal board and a set of headphones, I'm completely wireless, and ampless and a whole lot of things. It would make and that would fit in a gig bag. I got one right here, the pedal train bag that pedal comes in. All this would fit in there with a set of headphones, and I'm in that my guitar, and I'm ready to go. So yeah, a lot of applications here for these things, depending upon what you want to do. But it frees you up. It frees you up. That's exciting. To be in a hotel room with my pedal board using a wireless system with a guitar and just jamming out with headphones on, and none would be the wiser. And I can walk around the room, look out the window, you know, do the rock star thing. you know, jam on with my guitar into the bathroom mirror. No, that would be an interesting, awesome thing that with the technology and the things these days that it's really limited to your imagination, you know. And so I'm impressed, with this. It's something that I, again, was hesitant about, but I have completely been won over. I've been completely won over by it. And that's about that. So again, for recording, no, 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 no. But for here at home and for possibility of doing live work, I'm still considering it. I wish I had my bandmates. I would feel more comfortable if I had Kago and Tyler Do and a couple of guys over here to do it. But anyway, Angus Orvid, welcome. Hey, Angus, welcome. I played a party at Gene Roddenberry's house. Wow, wow. I'd like to hear that story someday. with the metal band in 91. That was shortly before he passed away, as my memory calls. And I tested the limits of my Samsung wireless analog system, walking around with it. I had my boogie set up with a tennis court with the band. Yeah, I had my boogie set up on a tennis court with the band. Yeah, when they work, they're great. Like I said, you can stroll around, go to the kitchen, make a sandwich, come back out to the pool side, finish your soul. I mean, well, keeping them along with the band. They're great for that regard. In these digital systems now, again, the range on these, this one has a range of about 60 feet, about 60 feet. And I think that for a small venue like the Paradiso here down the street from me, this would be just fine. This would be just fine. I haven't done the stroll where, because I have a pretty big deck. I think this part of town, I probably got one of the biggest decks that looks out onto Volta Park, but I'd like to walk to the end of the deck and see if I lose it with my windows open so I can still hear my amp and see how far it goes. So I might test that out actually and see how far I can get with this. But Gene Roddenberry's house, man, that's something. I'm a Trekkie. Been a Trekkie all my life. I'm the Trekkie generation, so I would love to hear about that story, Angus. MTS Guitar 5150. Moore makes an entire processor that big, the P2 thing. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that have these now. Moore has them. Samsung has them. A couple of companies. Yeah, there are literally, but they're all the same. They all basically run on the same frequency. They all have about the same amount of channels. Um, some of them, like I said, are USB charged. Some of them have built-in chargers where you plug it in a case. And some of them have headphone jacks. There's a lot of different things. As you get into those things, of course, the price goes up. But standard is around $50 for something that'll do you. The Samson sounded good. I'm sorry, Angus Orvid. The latency eroded badly 100 feet out. Okay. The Samson sounded good within 30 feet. Interesting, interesting. On a small stage like the Roxy, know it very well. It's not an issue. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, small venue. Yeah, and again, if I do play it, it would be at the first place I would do is down here at the Paradiso. I think that this would do just fine. I really, 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 really do. And for my stage act and the way I perform, it would be very good. If I've got some YouTube clips. You can see me playing live. I like to move around, especially if I'm moving between the piano and guitar. There's a song I do called "Lovely Fool," where I open up on the piano and then I go into the guitar. You can see that on YouTube. Um, and that would be great, because I had my guitar slung on my back and I'm sitting there playing piano, I think, and then I get up and I had to get into the guitar parts. But if it was wireless, I wouldn't have that extra have a worry about tripping over a cable. That would have been fantastic for something like this for that kind of stage. Otherwise, for band practice, I use cables. Yeah, most guys do. For band practice, most guys use cables, but something like this, like I said, it's kind of worth it. It may be even better. Like I said, you go make a sandwich, come back, and and you still got your guitar around your neck. This for what these are. This might now be again, an option. It is for me. I'm kind of hooked, guys. I'm kind of hooked. Yeah, I've spent, as most of you guys have, a lot of money on these friggin' cables. And like I said, these things are 15 or between 15 to $30 a piece. And you're gonna need, a dozen of them if you get yourself a decent pedal board. This is not cheap. But for this to come along, for recording, of course, I still need these. But the point is, I will not be investing in any more of this. I will not be investing in any monster or building or when you're soldering and making them yourself, you've gone too far. Like this one, I made this one. It's held up. I did a good job. Yeah, I did a good job, but I'm not going to be investing in this anymore. When if this craps out for $50, I can get another one. Hell, good cable costs you more than $50. I have them around for recording. That's great. Dr. Phil, Dr. Powell. Hello, everyone. I practice with the Joyo and the X5 wireless system. Both are great. Hey, there you go. Going into the Joyo, yeah, there is another application. Like I said, this is, you guys like, no duh, Mike. I've told you, I gave you my explanation of how I went from year to year. And the fact that just this week I finally went to here shouldn't surprise you. But this is a revelation to me that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. It really is, because again, I'm thinking of all the different applications for this, and it's opened up a new positive channel. And I always like that. I always like that's when a piece of gear is revolutionary, is when it can change your setup. And these inexpensive digital um, wireless systems are that in a way. When you get away from the expensive analog systems, you get into these for $50, and they work great. You got something there. Mr. Orvet, I was always a very conservative live performer, running around or jumping off drum risers. I just wanted to concentrate on getting music perfect. Yeah, unfortunately, I came from the Prince school that told there's a famous story where Prince goes into the rehearsal, and I've known this story since I was a kid. Prince goes into the rehearsal with his protege band, The Time, and they're rehearsing for their first tour. And at that time, the very world-renowned producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were playing keyboards and bass, respectively, in the band. And Prince walked in, and they had it tight, and it was grooving. I mean, how could it not be with those guys? Their band was better than Prince's, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons there was an issue there, because he knew that too. It's like Frankenstein's monster with him. But he walked in the room, and he said, "Yeah, it sounds great. How come you guys aren't dancing? I expect you to dance and play perfectly." And unfortunately, fortunately or fortunately, that's something that I always, I have to entertain. You got to dance a little bit, especially when you're doing R&B. Rock, I don't dance so much, but I do move around and play. And something like this, again, is something that would help facilitate that a lot more for me. So I'm excited about this. I really am. No, I'm not jumping off no drum riser. You see where that got Prince jumping off those high platforms and those speakers and stuff like that. He eventually messed his hip up, which led to him having pain, which led to him taking pills, which led to him ending up dead at the bottom of his elevator at Paisley Park, on the floor of his elevator at Paisley Park. So again, I'm not going that far. I'm not messing up my knees or hips. It's a marathon, folks. It ain't a race, it's a marathon. When we're young, we tend to forget that. Fortunately, I wasn't that ambitious as far as that's concerned. If a band can really move on stage like Prince or Scorpions, that's cool. But when bands are just plodding around like dinosaurs and high platform music, it ain't so cool. Getting into that Parliament funk, no, that's not true of them. But I know what you mean. I know exactly what you're talking about. I always found Kiss live performance to be boring. I found that they had all the costumery and the pageantry of P Funk, but for some reason they just couldn't pull off that kind of live show like P Funk could, if you think about it. And they were contemporaries. And George Clinton would argue that with Eddie Hazel, they had a better guitar player, which I would argue as well too, in terms of the rock genre. And again, if you're not familiar with that, go on YouTube and listen to Eddie Hazel play a song called Maggot Brain, and you will understand what I mean. But yeah, again, a wireless system, even in their case, it didn't really help. Angus Orbit. When you see those legacy bands like Motley or Aerosmith and they can't move like they used to, and they start wearing those weird high platform boats and leather bell bottoms, it looks like it's like you check your watch and say, "Man, what year is this?" Let me check my calendar because my eyes are telling me something other than what my watch is telling me. There's a different time zone going on here. I know what you mean. But with that, man, it's about when it comes to performance, people expect you to look the part too. You know, this guy saw a picture of me once. Somebody was talking about me. He's a musician, a producer, and a musician. And he plays and he does this and that. And the guy says, "Oh, let me see him." He saw a picture of me. He says, "That dude looks like an accountant." That was the feedback that I got. He doesn't look like a musician. He looks like an accountant. Because I didn't have, half my face tattooed. I wasn't wearing bell bottoms, I didn't have, whatever hairstyle that they saw that I was supposed to be. Now, when it comes to stage clothes, performing clothes, I have a certain style, you know, and I'm sure the style that I had when I was playing live then would be different from the style that I would have now. But I would certainly dress the part. But no, I never was into tattoos. I want to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. Kidding. Those old metal bands dressing like Zach Wild when he was 21 look ridiculous. Yeah, but if you think about Steel Panther, and they're kind of clowning, they're clowning that look. They're dressing that way ironically. You know, that song is never too late to get some. I love that song. It's never too late. It's never too late. But they're doing it, ironically. So in that regard, to me, it makes anybody who's doing it like, for real, like, what are you doing? You need to, fire your stylist and get somebody a little younger, maybe. Um, I do think bands should dress with respect for the audience, so no shorts or sandals. I agree with that. Again, guys, I grew up in a Los Angeles neighborhood that had a lot of musicians, and a lot of these guys were successful musicians. And the one thing that they would tell you is, a couple of things they would tell you if you want to do that is that your performance should move like a play. So, however you design your stage set from this song to the last song, there should be movement and variation. Uh, If you're lucky, like I did, I have projection screens. So when I'm doing a song like Strolling in the Moonlight, I have a big, moon behind me, projection, and all those kind of things. So again, but that gets into the artistry of it. Stage presence is important everywhere you play. I knew the old hair metal days were going away in 1990 when all those hair bands started wearing bicycle bands. Well, if you look at that series, kind of funny comedy. I don't know what it was. Tommy and Pam. That was that on Netflix. Tommy and Pam. I like that one. If you guys haven't seen that one, that because it talks about the relationship between Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson back in the day. And one of the scenes in that I thought was great was they were at Tower Records promoting their new singles like 88, 89, their new album. And you know, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, not 80s, in the 90s. I'm like, somewhere there was that changeover to Seattle sound, and the Seattle kids, the Sonic Youth and Nirvana and all those kids were standing over in the corner. They're just laughing and smirking at these guys because the way they're dressed and their spandex and their hair and all that, they're a joke to these guys. That culture shift happened. And so much so that even in that the screenwriters of that show decided to put that in to make that point. It's a great point. It's a great point. But those guys, they tried to hang on for your dear life onto that as long as they could. And it gets to a point where you look silly. One of the things that you can say about somebody like Madonna is that she changed. She was not the same image Madonna from one album to the next, and that stayed consistent through her career because she realized, again, much like your stage show has to be a moving piece of art from this song to this song. Your persona, if you're at that level, also has to change over time. You can't change styles, hairstyles. You can't, hang on to that. It's always got to be fresh because, well, anyway. You sure you want to be in the music business? Are you sure? Getting back to the last topic, Dave Brubeck and his band looked like accountants, and it didn't hurt. Well, again, a different time, a different thing. You could have Miles Davis in the suits. Charlie Parker in the suits. Even though Charlie Parker was a degenerate, druggie. There's a story of him. Yeah, no, I try to keep these. I could tell. I want to tell you these stories about those cats. How they really were, but I try to keep these live streams PG as possible. But when you're sitting there eating fried chicken, getting dome, you've moved into a whole nother level, and that's how those cats. Still, they wore suits and whatnot, but they were what they were. They were still musicians at heart. Is the point of that. And you know, it wasn't until the '60s that that kind of changed. Even Buddy Holly in the '50s. Buddy Holly, with his little, what is that called? A Bordello or Borello or not Bordello? That's a different thing, but Boro, whatever, and his country look was very tame. Nothing really particularly rock and roll about that by today's standards. So there is that. It just changes depending upon the kind of music. I wouldn't want to go see Dave Brubeck if he had long hair and bell bottoms and looked like Funkadelic and half of his face was black painted and the other was red or something like Star Trek or something like that. No, I wouldn't want to see that. Like black, half white, like George Gershwin in Star Trek. Nah, man, that's just not something I want to see. It works for Queen, doesn't work for Dave Brubeck. So again, genres, is an important thing there too to keep in mind. But yeah, just wanted to talk about that tonight. Just wanted to hit on that because it's a revelation to me, these wireless systems. I'm really happy that I picked this up. It was money well spent in my opinion, and it's what I use. The cables now, because I'm not doing any live work right now, and I'm certainly not doing recording. Are the things that are going to gather dust. Well, everything, because I live in Amsterdam, everything daily gets a layer of dust anyway, whether I'm using it or not. That's just a fact. But certainly, it's something that is going to be heavily in my tool bag, heavily used in my tool bag going forward. And I'm excited about it. I find it to be a great again, like I said, 50 bucks, 50 bucks. Is that going to be any good? Yeah, yeah. It's the best 50 bucks I've spent this year so far, to be frank. Best 50 bucks I've spent this year on gear. So I wanted to talk about that tonight. We do jump around in terms of topics on these live streams since we do it twice a week, Wednesday and Sunday. 11 p.m. Central European Time. I'm based here in Amsterdam. Same bat time, same bat channel. I try to stick to one topic as opposed to jumping around if I were only doing one, like before when I was doing one live stream. And that's working out. I like that. I like because we can go from the last topic where we're talking about the evils of the music industry to this next topic where we're talking about how great wireless is. The music industry has, again, like I said, it's got highs and lows. Every now and then we're going to talk about the lows, but I mostly like to talk about the highs and the practical stuff and the stuff that we really, are helpful and useful um, and something that may help you really change your rig in a positive way. It's affected me positive, like I said, because it cut out a lot of noise. And like I said, not with the Laney, but with that Fender Champ. Hey, the Fender Champ is a $200 amp any day of the week. Anyway, it's not. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a very inexpensive digital amp, digital solid state hybrid amp. But so you don't expect much out of it. And I did put a speaker in it that cost the same as the amp almost, but I do want it. I do like the fact that with this now it's quieter and it makes it even more use. So I'm finding myself using it more than the Laney because there's more things that I can do it because of the digital amp. I can change sounds and kind of play with that stuff a little bit when I want to. Usually, I just keep it on the Fender Blackface and run my pedals through it. But yeah, this system, even for a small thing like that, made that Fender Champ a little bit more usable for me. So again, a lot of applications with these things. 50 bucks or less. If you get them on sale, Musician's Friends has them for sale sometimes for 30 bucks. And you keep your eye out. You can find them. Z Sounds. You know, again, hell, Guitar Center. If you're really desperate, you can find them on sale for relatively cheap. So something to look into, guys. Something that you should take a look at. I think is worth doing. And coming up this week, again, like I said on my regular channel, I kind of review this a little bit, and I talk about in a compressed manner some of the things that I discussed tonight, my thoughts on wireless systems, as opposed to just using cables. Um, that's coming up. Certainly, for sure, by the end of this week, we'll have some new guitars from Japan to show you guys. I anticipate. And Fern wants me to come down to his shop and film um, and talk about some things down there that he'd like to share with you. And so I'm waiting for a time when he has a minute to do that. He'll let me know. So these are things that are coming up. A lot of interesting things coming up on this channel. Food for thought, of course, aside from the live stream. So look forward to that. Um, but I am blessed to have this channel, to have so many interesting topics to hit upon, and so many great people joining the community here all the time. Boy, it's growing. A lot of great people showing up, regardless of a day of the week. A time that I do this live stream is always a fantastic audience. And I want to let you guys know before I close out here that I do appreciate it. Now, if you want to show your support for this channel, and some of you this week I have received some money in from sales of the Asanoki album. 1 and 2, as I like to call them, over at Bandcamp. People have directly supported this channel by buying our merch. Our merch is albums, music that I wrote and produced and performed myself, that I think is quite good. And you'd be the judge of that by going over to Bandcamp and looking at the Asinoki 1 and 2 album. If you want to support this channel directly, I don't ask for super chats. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have, any of the things that people have auxiliary to try to make their money. Because the truth of the matter is, YouTube money is really short. It's almost to the point of being non-existent. I think that's by design. I think that if you look at the music industry and artists, most of your favorite top name artists, they're not making their money from their music. They're making their money from a clothing line, from a perfume line, from signing up with a big alcohol company to promote them. It's the same thing with YouTube. There's if you think you're going to make money off of having YouTube, and that goes up the scale, and only 80% of us don't really make a lot, then you have to find something else. And my something else, I thought, would to be to produce some fantastic albums and put those out for sale, so that you get something of value, I think of value, for your money, for supporting this channel. And the money that goes into buying those albums goes directly into this channel, buying lights and mics and wireless systems and things like that, so that we can improve the channel, make it a lot better. And if you want to do that, again, go over to Bandcamp, look up Asinoki or Mike McWilliams, either one. They'll direct you to my page, and support us by buying a copy of either one or both. I do appreciate that. I want to thank you guys so much for stopping in tonight to the Saturday and Sunday at Mike's episode live stream tonight. Don't know what episode this is. Angus, I'm for musicians making money any way they can. I've seen starving musicians digging through dumpsters, and it's sad. Yeah, man, it's getting tough. That little, again, I don't want to hit on those things too often, but I could do a complete live stream just in itself on how having a record contract is not enough. It's not enough. As a matter of fact, you could find yourself in debt to a record company for decades, even if you were a hit artist. There are hit artists out there who are still in debt to the record companies. And if you don't have an outside channels in order to leverage that fame into getting these connections, then you're screwed. And that's at every level. I could do a whole live stream on just that subject alone. This was on the 80s on Sunset Boulevard, Burger King. Yeah, I know that place. And dude was just like Nikki Sixx. Yeah, man, I saw this cat right across from the whiskey, man. There's a liquor store, if you know what I'm talking about. And they had some newsstands there where they sold the LA Weekly. You remember that? That newsstand right across the street from the whiskey. And I saw this dude there he had one of those Fernandez guitars that had the built-in speaker, but he was just shredding up, man. But he was begging. He was like, "Man, I'm hungry. Could you give me? I'll pay you something. Just starving." And I was like, "Man, that's rough." And I was thinking, and kind of what you're doing. To be honest with you, I don't see how that's going to translate into anything, too. So, yeah, Sunset. I got Sunset stories myself. I knew a band with a horrible record deal. One guy wanted a car in lieu of money, and they bought him a used vet, and he lived in it. Yeah. It's worse yet when the record companies will get you a car, but it's not in your name. It's just a lease. But they make you think it's your car. There's some tremendous heartbreak. Hey, that tremendous heartbreak is going on now. All right, guys, but that is as Mos Aneda said in Star Wars, that's another story for another time. Fernandez Zoo, great little guitar. Yeah, he had one, and he was just shredding it. And he was one of the quickest, best shredders I had seen at that point. I'm not a shredder. As a matter of fact, I'm not I finesse things to make it sound like I'm playing faster than I really am. But that dude, I felt sorry for him. Me and Jock walked by him. I think we gave him $1 or something. Yeah, Monsieur had these Lee Spinari, the Fenders made great guitars, but popular in Asia, I was really into the shred stuff. Yeah, different time, different era. All right, guys, I'm going to go ask Amin aside. Good night, guys. Thank you so much for showing up and chiming into the live stream. I do appreciate this. We will be doing this again this Wednesday coming up, so do mark that in your calendar. And I'd like to see you guys then as the days go by. Just love yourself, love your family, and just keep paying it forward by being thankful. And I think we'll all live a lot better. Things in this world are looking dark right now, so I think it's a little bit more of a time that we should be concentrating on the things that are important. So keep that in mind, guys. All right. Good night. Take care. Bye bye.